As one of our biggest supporters, the VFW has been fortunate to have a successful relationship with the truly outstanding company, United Service Automobile Association, or as I and you probably better know them, USAA. Together, our alliance has provided VFW members with top-rate banking and financial advice, property and casualty insurance services and products, and its support has extended to numerous other VFW endeavors over the years. With 37 years of service in the U.S. Army, USAA Director of Military Affairs, retired Command Sergeant Major Bob Winzenried, has served in several leadership roles, including Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Command Sergeant Major of the United Nations Command, U.S. Forces Korea, the Combined Forces Command, and the 8th Army, and as a Command Senior Enlisted Leader at NORAD and U.S. Northern Command. He is deployed to Honduras, Somalia, Kosovo, Iraq, with multiple command visits to Iraq and Afghanistan with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And he is also deployed in support of Hurricane Katrina and that superstorm named Sandy. Command Sergeant Major Winzenried joined the USAA team in 2014 and has dedicated himself to advocating for those who are currently serving and all those who have honorably served in the past. I am pleased to introduce our esteemed guest and the VFW member, Department of Texas, USAA Director of Military Affairs, retired Command Sergeant Major Bob Winzenried. Bob. Pretty good on the name. Jersey boy. Perfect. I was sick right there in San Antonio. That's right downtown. Yep.
Thank you, Commander Duffy. Our Commander-in-Chief, Duffy. We used to call him Sinks back in the day. But this is audience participation time, because I know that you've been sitting for a while. So we're going to do a selfie. So we'll see which side is louder or waves the most. So let's go this side first. Good. Where's Jersey at? All right, I know you're going to sound off because I'm a Jersey boy and I need that. All right, this side. All right, it was close. That's the political correct answer. Good morning, fellow veterans. Oh man, that is weak. Good morning, veterans. All right, now I know you're awake. We're good. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you this morning. I am both honored and humbled to speak with you today. I can think of no better way to spend a day than to hang out with a bunch of veterans who have served this great nation. I feel like I am with my extended family, and the only thing better is that I get to work for a company that truly knows what it means to serve USAA. This morning I wanted to talk to you about some of the things I have learned during my over 37 years of service as an enlisted soldier in the Army. Like many of you, I started out as a young man looking to get something more out of life. In my case, I was a long-haired hippie dude with a wife and a young son, and we knew the life we were living was not what we wanted for our young family. One afternoon, I decided to do something to get out of my dead-end job and to get out of New Jersey. Nothing bad about Jersey. So as I was thinking about how to accomplish that, the classic Army commercial came on and said, "Be all that you can be." So off I went to the recruiting station, and I never looked back. I'm sure there are a few of you out there who have done the same. From the time I joined, I've had the opportunity to go from a private E1 all the way through to the command senior enlisted leader for a combined and combatant command. Along the way, I've always enjoyed the fact that I was a leader of our most precious resource, the young men and women who have volunteered to serve our great country. Oh, by the way, for the last 15 plus years, they have continued to sign up with the full knowledge and expectation that they would deploy and serve in a combat zone. Every generation has produced Americans who have answered our nation's call to arms to defend us from evil. Whether it was the war to end all wars in World War I to today's battlefield, we have served across the globe from World War II and our greatest generation to those of you who have served in the forgotten war, Korea, to the jungles and rice paddies of Vietnam, and to those who never received the recognition and the respect they so rightly deserved. If you are a Vietnam veteran, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. The list goes on to the numerous Cold War skirmishes of the last century, and finally to those who have served and are currently serving in the deserts of Iraq, Syria, and the mountains of Afghanistan, along with many other locations too numerous to mention. All can stake claim to the moniker as great generations, at least when it comes to military service. I believe that in decades to come, the young people serving today will also be looked upon as a great generation. The greatest generation are those who served during World War II. They were supported and backed by an entire nation who sacrificed in their own way to support those in uniform and contributed to their eventual victory over our enemies. I only wish Americans had that same level of commitment today in our current fight. My point is that every generation has had young men and women who are willing to serve. We should be proud of the fact that these young men and women, just like previous generations, still are answering the call to defend this country and our way of life. But we are seeing the number of those willing or capable of entering or of serving dwindle. It amazes me and should trouble all of us that less than 1% of our population serves in our armed forces today. I think we can help our military when it comes to recruiting the best to join the military. I can tell you as a young'un, hearing about the exploits of all the men and women who served in the military, that it had a huge influence on my signing up. I think we have too many veterans who are not willing to share their military experiences, both the good and the bad, with our youth. I often heard in my last job in the military that the best protection for America was to conduct the fight as an away fight. We need to continue to encourage service to the nation as a noble endeavor. To quote an American military icon, General George S. Patton Jr., "The soldier is the Army. No army is better than its soldiers. The soldier is also a citizen. In fact, the highest obligation and privilege of citizen is that of bearing arms for one's country." I believe that we need every generation to understand and be willing to serve this nation. We have too many young people who truly fail to understand how important it is to serve our great nation, especially during these turbulent and troubling times. I worry that the military is turning into a family business. Many of my friends who are serving have their kids in the military as well. I would challenge you to find a senior officer or senior enlisted member with kids old enough to serve that doesn't have a kid who is serving. This is not good for the country, as those who serve are farther and farther away from the American public and are bearing a disproportionate burden of the current conflicts. 2 of my 3 sons served in the Army, both doing multiple tours in Iraq. My oldest son, Bobby, was a supply specialist serving with the 5th Special Forces Group around Mosul, Iraq. He was on his second deployment when he was on the receiving end of a mortar attack and suffered a concussion, probably his second one. He, like a lot of our service members serving today, just like a lot of you, did not want to say anything as his wounds were not visible. He decided to keep driving on despite massive headaches. It wasn't until he started to lose feeling in his hands that he finally had to tell somebody, and only then because he could barely hold his weapon. He was evacuated from Iraq and entered a medical system that was still learning about TBI and its effects on the brain. He was eventually medically retired because of his injuries. Bobby then entered the VA health system, and although he received adequate care, he once again never complained and kept his head down and continued to suffer in silence. This last September, he passed away due to the result of those injuries. Whenever I talked to him about his health, he would always say he was doing fine and would show me pictures of him hiking in Colorado. I believe he was trying to stay tough because he didn't want to look weak for his dad. We must do a better job of convincing these kids that they are not weak and that they need to ask for help when they need it. Whether their wounds are visible or invisible, they are still wounds. Organizations like the VFW can do this. All of us have experiences that allow us to understand their issues. We must talk to these men and women who are returning from years of combat and let them know that it is all right to talk with us. I believe that sharing these thoughts and experiences is much easier when you are talking to someone who has been there and done that. It is not necessary that you have served in the same conflict. I remember my father-in-law, who was a Pearl Harbor survivor and never talked about his experience until I joined the Army. It was then that he finally felt he could tell me about the sights, smells, and sounds of that devastating attack. The fact that you served and experienced the same trials and tribulations garners their trust and their respect. You all are serving today, maybe not in the military, but you are still serving our nation and our military, just for the simple fact that you are leaders and members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. You have all volunteered to continue to serve our nation in the best way you can. Your efforts in support of our currently serving military members and our veterans and their families are truly outstanding. I am proud to be a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. As a veteran, I can think of no better way to continue to serve. I like the saying I see on t-shirts all over and signs that state, "I took an oath to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and no one has relieved me from that oath." I love that. I would like to thank the leadership of the Veterans of Foreign Wars for the opportunity to address you all this morning. And I'm proud to work for a company, USAA, that has partnered with the VFW to continue to support veterans as an affinity partner with this great organization. I would like to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from President Teddy Roosevelt. "Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat." Thank you for all you have done in the past for our great nation. Thanks for all you continue to do as veterans of the greatest military in the greatest country the world has ever known. Hua.